Hi, this is Laurie Power, Director of Evangelization and Discipleship at Christ the Redeemer Parish, and welcome to Talking Saints. I'm here today with my co-host Peter Sanchez, reporter for the Catholic Star-Herald, and today we'll be spending about 10 to 15 minutes talking about a particular saint, their life, and how their example can inspire us. And why are we doing this? Because as Pope Francis reminds us, to be saints is not a privilege of the few, but a vocation for everyone.
Couldn't have said better myself, Laurie. It's just another joyful time to be here to talk about saints that can inspire us and to help us live out our vocation.
Absolutely.
And today's October 5th. Who are we? One of the saints that you and I actually got the privilege, we saw a documentary on her a few years ago on Saint Maria Faustina Kowalska.
Yes.
Okay.
Got it.
And she what is she known for, Laurie? She's known for something pretty awesome.
Absolutely. For the devotion to divine mercy. Jesus called her to be his secretary of divine mercy to get that message out to the world. So.
And she was young. She was in her 20s. Did you hear that message?
Yes. I mean, she was called much earlier than that. But, when Jesus first shared that particular mission to her.
Well, let's go back. She was born Helena Kowalska in Poland. Are you familiar with pronouncing that?
I don't want to butcher these Poland I wouldn't names. Even give it a try.
Well, she was
It was a small village in Poland.
Yes.
There we go.
On August 25th, 1905. So 113 years ago. She was a third of 10 children to a poor but religious family. And she was just 7 years old. It's remarkable when she first felt a calling to the religious life. She was present with the exposition of the Blessed Sacrament. And she finished her schooling. She wanted to join a convent. Her parents, though, told her, no, you're 7 years old. I'm assuming that's how it would have gone. But
even when she was a little bit older, they still dissuaded her, would not give permission to enter the convent. So she left her village, went to a nearby town and began working as a housemaid to help support her family. Until, of course, Jesus intervened. So she was at a dance, probably having a great time, and Jesus appeared to her wounded and scourged as at his passion, and said to her, "How long will you keep putting me off?" And so immediately she responded to that. It seemed like to her everyone else disappeared, and it was just her and Jesus. And as soon as she could, she slipped away and went to the nearby cathedral and fell prostrate in front of the Blessed Sacrament and really begged the Lord to help her to understand what she should do next. Up to that point, of course, her parents weren't giving their permission. So she was wondering, how is this going to go? How can I enter a convent? So he sent her to Warsaw, correct? Yes.
St. James Church.
Right, yes. And she started going to convents, visiting convents, and apparently one after another she encountered rejection until finally she was granted entrance to the Congregation of the Sisters of Our Lady of Mercy.
Yeah.
So this seemed to be a pattern in her life that nothing was going to come easy. It was going to be suffering for Saint Faustina. We seem to see that. That seems to be a recurring theme with the saints we've been discussing lately. That suffering is part of our life as Christians and our path to sanctity. So she was no exception.
And what is that phrase? It's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for one to enter the kingdom of heaven. I mean, it's a difficult road, but worth it.
Absolutely. And in her diary, which we will certainly talk about during this podcast, she once said that suffering is the way. If there was any other way, that's what Jesus would have shown us. But he showed us how to suffer, carried the cross, died for us. So that is the way. She was convinced to heaven.
And should we talk about when she had the vision?
Sure. Yes. I think she had many visions, saw Jesus in different ways, but one particular vision was pretty life-changing. So.
Yeah. And this was February 22nd, 1931. She was visited by Jesus, and who presented himself as the King of Divine Mercy. he appeared to her wearing a white garment with red and pale rays coming from his heart. And she was asked to become, like you said, the apostle and secretary of God's mercy, a model of how to be merciful for others, and an instrument for re-emphasizing God's plan of mercy for the world. Now, what's interesting is the Lord, when he appeared to her in the red and pale rays, he told her, the pale ray stands for the water, which makes souls righteous. The red ray stands for the blood, which is the life of souls. These two rays issued forth from the depths of my most tender mercy at that time when my agonizing heart was opened by a lance on the cross. Fortunate is the one who will dwell in their shelter, for the just hand of God shall not lay hold of him. And mercy, God will show mercy. And in her diary, which is pretty famous, I see you holding your
brought
copy.
A copy of it with me today. Yes.
It looks well read. Got dog ears on it.
Indeed.
It is, she said, she talked about how, also in that same visitation, Jesus explained he wanted a divine mercy image to be solemnly blessed on the first Sunday after Easter. That Sunday is to be the Feast of Mercy. And Jesus wanted her to paint an image according to the pattern you see, with the inscription, Jesus, I trust in you.
Yes.
And problem was she didn't know how to paint.
Well, that's true. She's not an artist.
But what she did is she asked around her convent, hey, do you know how to paint? I just saw this image of Jesus, and this is what he wants me to do. But
I'm guessing she probably went to her superior or to her spiritual director and said, Jesus told me to do this. And I can't imagine it was easy because, as we know, she encountered a lot of difficulty in making this happen. But they actually commissioned an artist to come in, and she would describe to him what Jesus looked like when he appeared to her, and then he would paint it. And if I remember correctly, when she first saw the image close to completion, she burst into tears because she said, that's clearly not as beautiful as Jesus is. And he didn't quite capture how Jesus looked to her. But that's what she had to work with. So that's the original image, the Vilnius image, which there are several versions of the image that are in circulation today. And Vilnius may not be the most common one. So if people have seen an image, it's probably a later version. But if you want to see the one that she had actually described to this artist and had painted, you can search for the Vilnius image to see that.
That's good to know, Laurie.
Yes.
Thanks for sharing that. And we were talking about Vilnius. She met Father Michael Sapako, the appointed confessor to the nuns, and he was the one she told about her conversation with Jesus.
Yes.
And he first said, you should see a psychiatrist. And
it's probably true.
But then, but she passed all the tests. She was declared a sane person.
Yes.
And then Father Sapako supported her efforts, realizing that this woman was truthful, and encouraged her. This is where the diary came from. He encouraged her to keep a diary and to record all of her conversations with Jesus. And Sapako actually introduced her to the artist of the first Divine Mercy painting.
There you go.
And according to the diary, on Good Friday, April 19th, 1935, Jesus told her he wanted the Divine Mercy image publicly honored. And then on April 26th, Father Sapako delivered the very first sermon on the Divine Mercy. And in September 1935, she wrote about her vision of the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. Can you speak a bit about that, Laurie?
Sure.
That's beautiful.
So, yes.
Devotion.
Christ gave her a prayer to pray. I believe she had experienced a vision of perhaps the world being destroyed. It was something that destruction was coming. And no matter what she prayed, nothing was stopping that. Nothing was keeping that at bay. And the Lord taught her this prayer, which we know as the chaplet. And when she prayed it, that's when the people were protected and the destruction ceased. So the prayer itself includes the Our Father, the Hail Mary, the Apostles' Creed, and then particular prayers that Christ taught her. So it would start with, Eternal Father, I offer you the body and blood, soul and divinity of your dearly beloved Son, our Lord Jesus Christ, in atonement for our sins and those of the whole world. And then, of course, it can be prayed on a regular rosary. And so 10 times you would then repeat, for the sake of his sorrowful passion, have mercy on us and on the whole world. Yeah. Yes. So he encouraged her to pray that. And now that is part of the Divine Mercy devotion. People around the world pray that typically at 3:00, the hour of mercy. Yeah. So,
it's just another thing that Jesus told her. He told Sister Saint Faustina, "My daughter, do whatever is within your power to spread devotion to my divine mercy. I will make up for what you lack." Isn't that so true? He does that for us. Like
yes.
In our weakness, we are strong, as Saint Paul taught us. And the first holy cards with the Divine Mercy image came out in July. Were first created, and she provided instructions for the Novena of Divine Mercy in July 1937. And
so the novena is, of course, 9 days of prayer leading up to Divine Mercy Sunday. And it starts on Good Friday. And each day you take a different group of people and entrust them to God's mercy. So maybe those who don't know God, they pray on a particular day for priests, for children and innocent souls. There's just different intentions for each day.
Yeah. So it's just another powerful, and it's continued to grow in popularity and promoting 1937.
Well, it's so needed. It's so needed right now in our world, certainly, and the Lord knew that just so in need of mercy.
And unfortunately, her health deteriorated by the end of 1937, and her visions intensified. She even said she was looking forward to the end of her life and full.
Yes, I think by the time she was close to the end of her life, she really abandoned herself to God's will and accepted suffering and accepted whatever he would bring for her. She had felt like the Lord was calling her to found a new congregation of sisters, and she writes about that frequently in her diary, but that's something that never happened, so it was something that was never realized, and yet she still said, your will be done. So that could have been, it would be frustrating for most of us if we felt, oh, God's calling me to this, but it's not happening. But she was totally abandoned to his will and docile to what the Lord wanted. So,
and even from a young age, like 7, she wanted to join the convent.
That's right.
I mean, just that, and we've talked about these saints that we've done a number of these now, and the recurring theme we keep talking about is suffering and sacrifice and devotion.
Yeah, so she contracted tuberculosis near the end of her life, so that was definitely a source of suffering. And also just the fact that she couldn't work or carry out her duties in the community. She was often sick in the infirmary. So that was a source of suffering for her as well, that she wasn't able to attend Mass, perhaps, or to pray with the community. Also a source of suffering.
Yeah. And a few years ago, Pope Francis he had the Year of Mercy, right?
Yes.
Which it was just beautiful. And what can we say about mercy? It's bringing joy and peace to others, and also help others trust in God's mercy.
Absolutely, yeah. That's why Jesus was encouraging her to spread this devotion. Because he wants to be merciful to sinners. I think you had a great quote about that from the diary that you were going to share. Yes.
Yeah, it's. Thank you for reminding me. This is diary entry number 723. It's very specific, which is great. I perform works of mercy. This is what Jesus told her. I perform works of mercy in every soul. The greater the sinner, the greater the right he has to my mercy. My mercy is confirmed in every work of my hands. He who trusts in my mercy will not perish, for all his affairs are mine. And just powerful to give up yourself, give yourself over to God, and don't be ashamed or embarrassed of your failings. Jesus is there. That love is there. And I think that for me sometimes, and I'm sure for other people, we can get bogged down in stuff that we know we probably shouldn't be doing, we don't feel like we can be forgiven or loved. We feel ashamed and hopeless. But this divine mercy is ever present. It is always there. And he's with us at all times. And it's beautiful that St. Faustina, I mean, what a herald of God's mercy, if I can call her that.
Absolutely. Yes. And of course, the sacrament of confession she speaks frequently about that in her diary. It's just this sort of the source of mercy, and it greatly encourages people to take advantage of that sacrament whenever possible.
I don't think it just works to ask for God's mercy. I think confession
we
is a big
certainly
part
should
of
do
it.
that too.
Yeah, but I think the other
sacrament,
it's both.
And he often pointed out to her that it's not the priest in the confessional, it's me. So remember that. That was a source of comfort.
And she was buried. She died on October 5th, 1938.
At the age of 33, just like Jesus.
80 years ago, Laurie.
Wow.
She died 80 years ago.
Wow.
Today. And she was buried 2 days later, and she's buried in Poland. So just beautiful. And I think, another person who had a big devotion to her, who canonized her, was St. John Paul II.
Yes.
That's,
absolutely.
We could talk a lot about that.
That's for another day.
It is, but that was, they were both from the same country, Poland, and I think that increased, and it's amazing.
So he canonized her. She was the first saint of the new millennium. She was canonized in 2000. And I think Father Michael Gately tells the story that there was a big celebration after that, and typically Pope John Paul II wouldn't attend those, but he went to that one and was overheard telling someone that this really was like the greatest moment in his life, the fact that he could canonize her, and also that the Feast of Divine Mercy was established in the Church universally as the second Sunday of Easter. So he felt like that was a great success, I suppose you could say, in his papacy.
Beautiful. And there's I would recommend you can go to Vilnius, check out that image, right?
I'm not sure if it's still there, Pete. Yeah, the image, the poor image, I think it was like taken down, forgotten. It was hanging in a church. People didn't even realize it was there. And then because the devotion was suppressed for a while, people didn't quite understand it until it was examined at length and then spread worldwide. So, yeah, I'm not sure if it's still in Vilnius. We'd have to look, see where the original is.
Well, Krakow. I know that the Shrine of Divine Mercy, the church would have it, and so I think, Laurie, you were going to close with the beautiful prayer, right?
The closing prayer to the Chaplet of Divine Mercy, which Christ gave to Faustina. Eternal God, in whom mercy is endless, and the treasury of compassion inexhaustible, look kindly upon us and increase your mercy in us, that in difficult moments we might not despair nor become despondent, but with great confidence submit ourselves to your holy will, which is love and mercy itself. Amen. Saint Faustina, pray for us.